Out of the three elements of a news story, we have done intro. Now we will continue with second part of the news story, that is body. So we have seen that the news story consists of three elements, that are intro, body, and language of the story. So we have done intro. Now we will proceed towards body and language of the news story. After the intro is written, the body of the story will follow in the logical order of inverted pyramid style. Mention of the source in the lead is inexplicable. When the news point is controversial or in any case disputable, but where the fact is unchallengeable, the opening paragraph may give the news straight with the source being mentioned in the next. In such cases, one should avoid starting the next paragraph with "this was announced" or "started here today by." So, such a sentence, that just as we have done, "this was announced here today by." So, such a sentence just after the late arrests the momentum of the story. Second paragraph can go straight to the next important point, bringing in the source suitably so that the story is kept moving smoothly. In the body of the story, use of apt words is essential to ensure precision and readability. The body should be concise and shorn of all verbiage. It should contain all material points concerning the news event, elaborate or background them where necessary, but do not burden it with dispensable details. So now, what type of language should be used in the news story? We will see. The language of the news story should be simple and familiar so that it is easily understood by the average reader. Simple and direct sentences are more effective than long, involved ones. A simple style is also easy to translate if the copy is used in some sister publication in a different language. In multi-language societies like India, this is a significant advantage. It is not enough to collect news, it must be put across clearly. The meaning must be unambiguous and it should be succinct. Readers do not have time and newspapers do not have the space for elaborate reiteration. Every word should be understood by an ordinary person and every sentence should be clear. There must be no abstractions. Some people are proud of writing long sentences with many dependent clauses, with subjunctive verbs and conditional clauses, with exclamations and interjections, quotations, allusions, metaphors, complex imagery, and literals. They presume that the reader has enough time, has classical education, and does not have to work for a living. One must always keep in mind that a sentence is more likely to be clear if it is short and communicates a single thought or closely related ideas. Long sentences with too many ideas are not the cause of the disease, but are often a clear symptom of the problem. Where the idea in a sentence are complex, they cannot be presented intelligibly in subsidiary clauses separated by a mere comma. A full stop in such cases proves a great help in giving clarity. The prefixing of a subsidiary clause with one or more ideas in advance of the main idea often produces a long, confusing sentence. Opening a sentence with a subsidiary clause adds special difficulties for the reader if the two ideas go in different directions. The sentence carrying the most important thought should be given an immediate identity of its own. This does not mean that newspapers should use only simple sentences. Economy of space as well as rhythm requires all kinds of sentences to be used. For example, it may be wasteful to introduce a complete subject and predicate for each idea. A subordinate clause in a complex sentence can express better, precisely, and economically than a series of simple sentences or compound sentences joined by and, but, etc. The crux of the matter is Have something to say and say it as clearly as you can. Unfamiliar words and jargon expressions peculiar to various fields of specialized knowledge should be avoided as far as possible. The choice of words should be simple and related. Unfamiliar words should be explained in a simple language. Latin and Greek expressions appear in law, medicine, biology, etc. And some of these expressions have become a part of the English vocabulary through frequent usage. If these are readily understood, they may be used without any explanation, but if the Latin or Greek expressions have a popular English equivalent, that should be preferred. In other cases, these expressions, if used, should be accompanied by an interpretation or an explanation for the benefit of the lay leader. Mere fashionable use of foreign expressions should be avoided. Profanities, obscene, or vulgar language should be totally eschewed. They should be cut out from direct quotations, slangs, though not in such bad taste as obscenities should also be avoided in portions quoted. Colloquialism is also best avoided except in quoted text. Preference should be given to the active voice. Sentence in the passive voice have a deadening effect. Vigorous, economical writing requires a preference for sentences in the active voice. One should always prefer that directors will meet next week, or a meeting will be held by the directors next week. Official reports are full of passive voice. It was felt necessary in the circumstances, it was considered advisable, etc. In officialese, the language is polluted by vicious words, meaning is clouded by vague abstractions, euphemisms, conceal identity, and heavy words weigh the mind down. It does not rain in officialese, but precipitation is experienced. However, in certain circumstances, the passive voice is useful, especially where the deed is more important than the doer. General strike has been called for tomorrow by to protest against is better than the anything has called a general strike tomorrow in protest. All names in the copy should be properly identified. As far as possible, where the subject of the copy has multiple identifications, that is, if he or she can be